We have some ex-Phillies on the ballot this year, and it's interesting because that great Phillies team that the call was from, Rollins and Utley and Howard and Hamels, there is a chance, and I think it's a small chance, but a chance that none of those guys end up in the Hall of Fame. But we do know two of them are on the Hall of Fame ballot right now. It's Chase Utley's first year on the Hall of Fame ballot, Hugh, and I believe this is year number 3 for Jimmy Rollins on the ballot.
Yeah.
And here's my instinct on this. My instinct, if I had a vote, I would vote for Utley. I would not vote for Rollins. I think Utley is a Hall of Famer, despite what Howard Eskin tried to spin to us a little while ago. I do believe Utley is a Hall of Famer, one of the great second basemen, I think, in baseball history. And I have Rollins one notch below. I know a lot of people feel it's almost flipped to what I think, and they think it's the opposite. Hugh, Rollins, Utley. When you think of those two guys, you think we have 2 Hall of Famers, 0, or 1 and 1?
I would say 1 and 1. And I would probably go, and looking at the numbers here and trying to figure this out, I would probably go Jimmy Rollins in this situation. He played more games than Chase Utley. I know his WAR was higher. Chase Utley's WAR was higher than Jimmy Rollins, and that was one of the things. When you talk about their numbers, comparing batting average and everything like that, is really, really similar. But the thing that really sticks out is his WAR. His, what is it called, the wins above replacement?
Yeah, for Utley.
Yeah, it's like 64 to Jimmy Rollins is 47. So I think that means a lot when you hear people talk about baseball players and how they rate them, even though Jimmy played more baseball games than him.
So it's interesting with the two of them. Utley has more of the new school, like you mentioned WAR, right? His higher, that's kind of the new school voting. Rollins is more of an old school candidate. You said he played more games, he had more hits, he won an MVP. Utley didn't win an MVP, although he got close.
Utley had
a lot
more
of years.
home runs.
Utley did have more home runs. I think Rollins was better defensively. Though I disagree with Howard. I thought Utley was good defensively, but I thought Rollins was a great defender.
I think Rollins was, because I remember one time talking to Jimmy, and he was telling me some of the nuances of playing shortstop and how difficult it is, and what he had to do, and how some of the messages that were relayed during the course of the game that we don't know as the casual fan. So that's why I kind of lean towards J-Roll a little bit.
So the one thing that pushes Utley over the top for me is I thought for about a 6 or 7 year stretch he was one of the best overall players in baseball, not just second baseman. I mean, it was Pujols, and then he's right there. I mean, you go back to that era. A-Rod was kind of older at that point. Mm-hmm. Pujols was the best player. It was before Trout arrived, before Harper arrived. There was that kind of weird time. I guess you could throw Miguel Cabrera in that mix too. He was a great player. But I thought Utley had a 5 or 6 year stretch where he was one of the 5 best players in all of baseball. Rollins, I just felt Rollins was more steady. Like, he was good for, 12 years. Meanwhile, Utley was great for, I would say, about a 5 or 6 year stretch. So the voting is tonight. I think Utley is going to do better on the ballot. This is his first time on the ballot. Chase
but
Utley.
he probably won't get the nod, though, this year.
I don't think so. I think if I had to guess this year's inductees tonight, I think you're going to see Adrian Beltre, who's pretty much a lock, Joe Mauer, Todd Helton. I think they'll all be in the Hall of Fame tonight. So I think we'll have 3 inductees. If I had a ballot, I got my hypothetical ballot for you.
It's a hypothetical.
If I had a ballot, here's what I'd vote for. I would vote for Chase Utley, Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, Todd Helton, Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones, and Alex Rodriguez.
In that order.
Yeah, those would be my 7 guys. I'd have them on the ballot right now. I think Utley's going to go. I mean, it's interesting. I think most of our listeners, Hugh, would say Rollins over Utley, but I think Utley's got a better chance.
I think part of that is because of what Utley meant here in his celebrity. But when you look at the numbers, to me, it's the J-Roll thing. And to me, I look at the longevity and actually being out there playing. So that's why I kind of lean towards J-Roll in this one.
I also wonder if, as time goes on, if one does get in, if it helps the other, because people will be like, "Hey, they were a great combo."
Yeah, and their numbers are super close.
They're not. Yeah, you're right. They're not. It's not like one guy is a lock and the other guy isn't. I think they're both very debatable. Like, I could see points. I mean, if Utley makes it, he'd be one of the first to make it with less than 2,000 hits in a very long time because his career fell off due to injuries.
And if he makes it, then you definitely have to put J-Roll in.
Well, I think it would actually help J-Roll down the line if Utley does get in, because it's like, hey, they were next to each other for all those years. Maybe both go in to represent that 08 team and the one that got back in 09. Kyle, for you, we'll get the first ballot tonight, or the results of the ballot, and we'll see how these guys do. So Rollins, Utley, do we have 2 Hall of Famers here, 1 or none?
Well, I think there's a great case for both of them. But first of all, somebody from that 08 squad needs to make the Hall of Fame.
And it's not going to be Howard.
Yeah.
Howard's no chance.
Right.
I I think Hamill's got no chance either.
No chance. So it's between Rollins and Utley. I agree with you that I think Utley, just based on what we see with the voting, is more likely to get in. But I think I'd want to see Rollins get in, man. I'm just thinking of the shortstops at the time that he played, and it was Derek Jeter, who's maybe one of the most overrated baseball players in the history of Major League Baseball. Tulowitzki, who got to play in Colorado. And who was the other one that we talked about a little bit earlier?
Nomar was early.
Nomar Garciaparra, yep. So I just think Rollins' peak, at his best, he has the MVP season. I think he was one of the best defensive players in the league. I don't know. I think I would probably try and make the case for Jimmy Rollins.
I'm fascinated to see how many votes they get tonight. Now, I don't think either of these guys are getting in tonight. They just
that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, there's actually a tracker that's
Chase.
out there. This guy, he tracks as the ballots come in. Hugh, people put it out on their social media.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a guy. His name's Ryan Thibodeau. He tracks the balloting. He tracks the public votes. Now there are some people who don't reveal their ballots publicly until tonight, so you don't know who they voted for. But some people share, right? Your writer has a column. He writes it and he puts out the whole thing, and you know who he voted for. So as we sit here at 1 o'clock today, and the final vote comes in at 6. Utley has 40% of the public ballots. 40% of the ballots that are out there, Utley is on them. Rollins is at 14.8%. So neither are getting it tonight, but obviously Utley's way ahead and looks like he could be on his way. I think Utley's a Hall of Famer, not Rollins. 215-592-9494. We'll throw that in the mix as well. I mean, we watched them, and they were both great together. They were an incredible combination. Who gets your vote? Rollins, Utley, or some people might say neither. I mean, neither are locks to make the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean it's definitely not a lock. When you talk about the numbers, they're definitely borderline.
I think that's a great way to put
it. And the fact that they won a World Series together, that kind of puts them in the conversation.
Yeah, and Kyle said something interesting. That 08 team that won it, right? They go back to the World Series in 09. It would be weird if no one got in from that team.
Yeah,
because
somebody
they were a
has
great
to get
team.
it. Yeah, they really were, and they played extremely well, man. I remember that's when I was here, and when they won it, the city went bananas.
Of course, amazing.
The city was bananas. It was great, man. It was great to see.
The funny part is if we had asked this question, let's say in 2006, who's the future Hall of Famer on that team? Everyone would have said Howard, right? He was the obvious, easy answer.
The big piece.
Because he had all those home runs and he was on the power surge that no one had ever seen. But then he got hurt and he fell off so fast.
And plus, a lot of time when Howard came up, a lot of people felt like they brought him up too late.
He came up later in his career.
Yeah, he came up too late. Yeah, and you missed some of his better seasons. Because Tomei was here at that time, and they didn't want to sit him down. So yeah, but yeah, he would have been the lock if he had played a little bit longer.
So that actually also hurt Utley a little bit because he was a college player. So he went to school and then he got drafted. He didn't get. I don't think Utley got up till he was 24 and then got going. Rollins actually got up the earliest. If my memory serves, he was up at like 20 or 21 years old. So he obviously became the all-time hit leader here. 215-592-9494. All right, you can chime in on that. Tonight we'll get a sense of the future of Rollins and Utley on the Hall of Fame ballot. I think Utley's going to get in one day. I really believe that, and I think he should. Rollins, for me, is one notch below. I thought he was a tremendous player, one notch below. All right, your phone calls on that. Obviously, the hurt stuff. Which part of his game you're more worried about, leadership or play? And Joel, 70 points last night. Incredible. Chris is in Sewell. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, Chris. What's up, buddy?
I'm done with the Eagles, but I love the baseball talk.
What are you thinking on this as we get the Hall of Fame vote tonight?
Joe, I think you're crazy. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So I was a season ticket holder through that whole run of the Phillies from 05 to 12. So I don't care what the sports writer vote. It's always amazed me, this love affair, these Philadelphia fans. Well, I should say these. I'm one of them.
Right. You were there. All these people. You're among us here, Chris.
I mean, I understand why the love affair with Chase Utley. Okay, he was, I guess, the epitome of what a Phillies fan would love. But I don't often agree with Howard Eskin. But Howard was dead right. Utley gave us 4 really good years, and then after that, he was plagued by injuries. He held the franchise over a gun one spring training until right before the season started, to then decide to sit out for a while. Utley's never missed. I mean, Rollins never missed. Rollins was always there. Rollins was by far the face of the franchise through that whole run. Rollins was an MVP. Rollins was a Gold Glover. That walk-off double that you played there in the highlights was one of the single most exciting plays I've ever seen in my life. Again, Rollins. Yeah, Utley gave us some moments. Rollins gave us a body of work.
So here, Chris, here's why I disagree with you. Well, here's the part I will disagree with. And your opinion, you have a right to, and you were there for the games. I don't think it's just Philadelphia fans, Chris. I don't think nationally Rollins is viewed as good of a player as Utley. I mean, I'm going back to their careers. Jimmy made 3 All-Star games. Utley made 6 All-Star games. And then you go to MVP, top 10 MVP. Utley finished top 10 MVP more than Rollins. I mean, I think it wasn't just us. Everyone thought Utley was better.
What? We're losing one.
All right, Chris. So
they got that bootleg,
yeah,
bootleg phone.
Got a couple people with the bootleg phone.
Yeah, that bootleg phone.
You know what? I think it might be one of the lines back here because I've noticed that it's been 2 people specifically
so it's
on
not
one
them.
line.
It's not them, it's us.
Hugh's ripping their phone. It wasn't them.
Thought they had that jitterbug. You know, them jitterbugs don't act right.
Walkie-talkie action.
It could be us. Could be us.
Yeah, it's all right. We could be our
Accountability.
fault.
Yep.
All right, let's talk to Chuck. Who's up next? What's up, Chuck?
Good to talk to you guys.
You too,
What's up,
Chuck.
Chuck?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, you, let me tell you something. Just remember something. Whenever you talk, people listen. You've been to the mountain, so whenever you talk, people listen.
They shouldn't believe
He's
that.
an idiot.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for putting it in perspective for me.
And then now you believe you have a lot to offer.
Well, appreciate you. Appreciate that.
Anyway,
Appreciate
let me get into this Rollins mix here. And listen, Utley was a very, very good baseball player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But let's talk about the person, the athlete. Let's talk about Rollins for a second in comparison. First of all, he was faster. Second of all, he had a better arm. Third of all, he was just a better all-around ball player. He was a leader. Utley, I'm not saying, look, you're putting me in a position where I'm not bad-mouthing Utley. Jimmy Rollins was the better player. And one other thing, and I think this may not be a big thing to you guys, but if you're a baseball manager and you come down to a big game and a big series, Rollins switch hit. And that's another big advantage.
That was,
for
Chuck, that's a good point. But, I mean, if you had, all right, let me put it this way. If you had the game on the line, who would you rather have at the plate, Utley or Rollins? It's Utley. It's Utley.
Listen, I can't convince you. And look, you guys know your baseball. I'm just telling you, I like the other guy.
Well, I liked him too. But, I mean, I'm thinking about the 09 World
Rollins
Series.
faster.
Utley had 5 or 6 home runs in the World Series in 09. I can't get that out of my head. He's the biggest moments.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think, being on a team with these guys, and look, I'm not saying this to be cruel or anything, but Rollins is the kind of guy I'd like to follow. Let me ask you this. Let's call spade a spade. Did you think Utley was a little weird?
Yeah, he was a little quiet, standoffish,
He was a little different.
Yeah.
All right, pass this on to Jack Fritz, because I was at the game in Hershey when Chamberlain scored those 100 points, because we used to go to the frickin' high school basketball championship game.
Oh, wow.
But the following night, Uniontown beat Norristown High. But we were up there for the Friday night game. All of about 500 people were there. And if you were ever in a pro game where after each basket nobody cheered, you'd have died laughing up at that place. But look, you guys keep up the good work. And Douglas, you're a good man.
Thank you, sir.
Chuck,
Appreciate you.
appreciate you, man. How about that? Chuck bringing the who would you rather be a teammate to? I mean, Jimmy seemed like a cooler guy, if that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, Jimmy seemed like a guy he was easy to talk to. The first time I went to spring
I
training.
think Jimmy's good on TV now.
Yeah,
too.
he's really good on TV. First time I went to spring training, he was just breaking down the nuances of playing his position. I thought I was fascinated by it. It was like a kid in the candy store, just like listening to what he had to say.
Yeah, let me make it clear. I'm not anti-Jimmy. I mean, I'd be happy if Jimmy
But
got in the Hall of Fame.
you're just thinking, who you think has a better chance.
Yeah, and
which is cool.
I just think Jimmy was one notch below the Hall of Fame, and I think Utley was a Hall of Famer. But I'd be happy for Jimmy if he got in. They both get in one day.